This is the Cube Reaction HPA, High Performance Aluminum Pro 29. And the 29 stands for the wheel size. So these are 29 inch by 2.3. You know, pretty good. You got nice grip, good knobby tires here. Looks like ground control, sort of a new brand to me. But Cube is a European bike, and I'm actually here in Whistler, Canada, test riding them and really enjoying myself. This is one of the most affordable Bosch powered electric bikes I've ever tested, and it doesn't feel like they really skimped on it. I mean, it comes in 5 sizes, like 15, 17, 19, 21, and 23. So you go from like extra small to extra large. You've got a nice, RockShox fork here, XC28 with remote lockout. It's just going to make it a little bit easier to transition from a little bit of off-road trail riding onto smooth pavement. You're going to save some of the energy that you might lose otherwise from bobbing. They're all this high step sort of traditional frame, which is fine in my opinion. It might be a little bit more of a step over if you're standing, but the fact that they do have those frame sizes means that you're going to be able to find the right size, and you're not going to have to push it too much. Really nice seat post here, 30.9 millimeters, and I think it's like 350, so it goes pretty high. 350 millimeter tall. And back here we've got these sort of threaded eyelets. You can kind of see on the chain stays, so you can add yourself a rack pretty easily and turn this into a commuter bike. There it is right there. And actually the other one on this side is being used for the derailleur cable, and I noticed there's another mounting point here, so all the wires just feel pretty well integrated. This one's actually going through the frame. Some of them are external, but they're very secure. Okay, so that might be one of the areas where there's a little bit of cost savings going on. Also the pedals here, snafu, good size, but they're plastic, so it's a platform pedal right there, integrated really well. Black white accents on this thing matches the fork. It's got a good look to it, and for $29.99, it's about $3,000 USD. That's phenomenal. All of the other Bosch powered electric bikes I've seen are $4,000 and starting. And to have the remote lockout and some of that. I should also mention these nice hydraulic brakes. We got the Shimano 180 millimeter rotor on the front, 160 on the rear, kind of standard setup. Quick release on the front and rear. Sun wringle. It's kind of cool. And then the Shimano Dior Drivetrain. As you can see here, there's actually 9 rings, kind of punched out a little bit. Lightweight, pretty high quality stuff. It shifts pretty smoothly. This is actually a rental model, so it's seen some abuse out there on the trails in Whistler, but still performing really, really well in my little ride test here. And I guess there's even a kind of an eyelet right there. Not on the front, but you might be able to get one of those little short fenders if you're in the mud. I like the idea that this could be used around town, or a little bit on the trail. It's a versatile model that people can actually afford and step into. I like that. One of the things it doesn't have stock is a kickstand, so I'm kind of balancing it on the rocks here. But you can see there's a hole right here, so it's an accessory that they actually sell. That will fit and that hangs off the back here. That's something that I would probably get for myself because I'm a bit of a weekend warrior. I'd use this for commuting, and I think I'd be pretty happy with it. I might add a suspension fork here, or a suspension seat post to give myself some more cushion. But with the 29-inch wheels, you get a little bit more gap spanning, and it sort of smooths out the cracks. 2.3 inches on the tires. It's going to be a cush ride. The suspension fork's decent, so it starts out pretty good. And I found that depending on the model you get, I'm here on the 19-inch, so a couple steps up, sort of a medium. I often complain if you turn, are you going to clip your toes? But the geometry on this is pretty good, and the travel's still pretty good. So it's a nice setup. Like a tapered head tube here, pretty flat bars, maybe a tiny bit of rise, and they're just so clean. I like that they put the lockout on the right. I've seen some of the other lockouts on the left, and then it makes it harder to reach that control panel over there. So I guess coming back to the drivetrain real quick, they have a 15-tooth sprocket at the front, and this is something that each manufacturer chooses for their line of bikes. Because Cube is European and they have sort of like a 15.5 mile per hour or 25 kilometer per hour speed limit in Europe, they use the smaller chainring, just because it was like, well, this gives the motor more favorable mechanical advantage. It feels very powerful, zippy. I had no problem going up these hills, and we'll do that in a second here. Just this nice little neighborhood. The thing is, once you hit that like 20 miles per hour, it's hard to go much faster, and you're kind of spinning. So again, nine sprockets at the rear, that's enough. It does a good job, but maybe in the future we'll see like 18 tooth or something. 15 is pretty small for something that you might want to use as a commuting bike. So anyway, it's the Bosch Performance Drive. It pulls the same chain that you do, and it measures 3 things. Got a little magnet right here and a sensor over there. That's measuring your speed. And then inside here, it's measuring your cadence, so kind of how quickly you're pedaling, or if you're pedaling. And then also the torque, so how hard you're pushing. And it measures all 3 of those things about 1,000 times per second. It's extremely responsive. So that means as soon as you stop pedaling, the motor isn't going to be like accelerating you. It's going to stop almost immediately. Love that. The battery pack that kind of powers the whole thing here, it's got Samsung cells, 36 volt, 11 amp hour. So it's actually 396 watt hours, but they call it the Power Pack 400 to sort of designate how much power you're getting out of it. It is removable. It connects to the frame here. It's actually welded. You can see the aluminum welds pretty efficiently. Nice colors and stuff. In some ways, I've seen some of these fancier, like bright, fluorescent, whatever, colored electric bikes, and this one's, it's a little bit more tame, but that's not bad. It looks professional, blends in. There's the keyhole. You can easily take this battery off. You can charge it on or off the frame, and here's the charging port right here near the kind of the bottom bracket motor system. It's also got like an LED power level indicator. So I like to take that off whenever I'm hanging it on the back of my car, or doing maintenance, or just leaving this in the garage or a bike rack, because it's only 5.5 pounds. You can easily top it off at your friend's house or at work, and it's got this nice loop for carrying it around. It's not going to drop very easily. So it's good stuff, and I have pretty solid warranty. Bosch is a big name company that does a good job with their products. So there's a lot to appreciate between the drivetrain and also the motor systems. And it's already on, but this is how you turn it on right here. The power button turns on extremely quickly. Boom, we're there. It does swivel forward to back a little bit to reduce glare, and it's even removable. There's a little tab right here, so you can push down on that and slide it off if you want to. Take it with you, just like the battery. Keep the thing from getting vandalized or exposed to the hot sun, the rain, the snow. So I really like it. And it's even backlit, so there's a little light bulb icon here. If you press that, backlighting happens. And you can actually wire in lights on some of these, depending on what your shop is willing to do. Otherwise, you just get some of those Amazon or whatever, like rubber band lights work all right. It's just neat that there's a lot of potential here. Again, since we're at kind of the lower end in terms of price point, though, it feels pretty complete as is. Okay, so getting back to the display panel, we've turned it on. Most of the interacting you do with this is done through the little button pad over here, real easy to reach. The eye changes the readouts here, so right now we're seeing odometer. Then you go to trip distance, clock, max speed, average speed, trip time, and finally range. Range is one of my favorite readouts because it's actually sort of estimating on the fly how far it thinks you can go. So if I arrow up to Eco, it's the lowest level of assist, it's saying 79 kilometers. And this is not a full battery, so that's pretty impressive. Of course, you're gonna lose some efficiency because these tires are studded. You've got the suspension unless you've locked it out. And by the way, preload adjustment, it's kind of nice. If we arrow up a little higher, you want a little more boost, maybe you're climbing a hill. There's Tour, 40 kilometers, Sport, 33, Turbo, 30. Okay, so progressively less range, but kind of more fun and more power and better climbing experience. I tend to actually ride in the lower levels, Tour and Eco, and I just arrow up or down, and you can kind of hear that. So I feel like I can keep my eye on the road. I'm not actually looking down at the console very often, but when I do, you can see my battery right at the top. That's probably the most important. I know if I need to turn around. There's your speed, and then there's your assist level. So it's kind of what you need right where you want it. Over here on the right, I often forget to mention this, but there's this little USB charging port built right in to the display. Look at that. Got like a micro USB. So if you had a smartphone or maybe portable electronics, you could charge those. I think it's like 500 milliamp. So it's not like the most powerful thing, but you can also update firmware and do some other stuff on there, and that's nice. There's also like a walk mode, but depending on the nation you're in, it may or may not work. I think being here in Canada, this bike does not have it, but maybe in the future. It's just a nice little extra. I think all in all, pretty good. You know, pretty standard grips. It looks like they do kind of have like a locker on the inside, maybe not on the outside, but flat rubber. Nice long handlebars, what you'd expect for a little bit of trail riding maybe. And then there's those levers, hydraulic. So great stuff, great stuff. I might just take another quick little walk around. I was weighing it earlier and it's about 57, 58 pounds depending on the frame that you get. This one, you know, 19 inch, probably like that, 57 and a half, which isn't bad. And again, the battery, 5.5 pounds, 8.8 pounds for the motor, and all of that weight's kept real central, real low. So it's very stable. It's very maneuverable. Sometimes with these bigger wheels, like you get this nice coasting feeling going on, and you can just kind of like weave your way along. And I never have a feeling of like crack the whip because of a rear rack. A lot of the, when you put that much power, like battery pack up here or something, it changes the feel of the bike. And this one's very stiff. It's a good ride. It's one that, it's very capable. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop on this thing and, show off the motor a little bit and pedal it around. I'm just gonna start off in no assist mode and ride this like a bicycle. Cool. I'm just pedaling. Feels pretty nice, 11, 12 kilometers per hour. Change my gears up, got the nice window. And then there's this huge hill here. So I'm gonna try to climb this a little bit and show you what that sounds like with the motor, because it's actually very capable. Woo! Getting some speed here, testing out those disc brakes. Okay, time to go back up it. This is where that 15 tooth is gonna really shine. Okay, shifting. By the way, the motor actually has shift detection, so as soon as I turn this on, oh, there we go, completely alleviating the strain. Climbing, barely even pushing, but you do have to pedal because there's no throttle on this thing. So I'm pedaling, I'm just kind of moving my feet along. I'm in sport and I'm having no problem easily climbing this. Now I'm in turbo. Incredibly responsive. So good stuff, kind of what I've come to expect from Bosch. And really we're just talking about the platform. So very affordable, it's efficient, and having those size options is really key. So I think that's kind of it. I might do the shift test real quick and show the motor, and you kind of listen for it here. Not having a problem, it's doing its thing. So I think that's it. It's the Cube Reaction Pro 29er. For the full write-up on this and other Cube electric bikes, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. And if you're in Europe or maybe Canada, you have some feedback about this brand, feel free to chime in the comments. Hopefully I'll be reviewing more of their stuff in the future because they've got just a ton of bikes. Ride safe.